Hello, and welcome to Recapping with Delora
and Ashley.
Please follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at Recapping Podcast.
Also, rate, review, and subscribe to our show on your favorite podcast platform. We're on all the things.
We want to hear your thoughts on the movies and shows we review.
Leave us a comment on Apple Podcasts or our YouTube channel, and we will read them during the show.
Or reach out to us on social media. We love talking all things entertainment and pop culture with you.
Thank you guys so much for listening.
Thank you.
What's up, Delora? How are you?
I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm good. It is the wrap up of our Women's History Month recaps. So we did so far this month, Mea Culpa dropped. We did Past Lives just last time. If you guys haven't checked out that recap, check it out.
Yes.
And the Marvels. So to wrap this thing up, we are going to go kind of, I guess, back to fantasy, if that's kind of how we want to think of the Marvels. But this time, talking about a damsel, I said not so in distress, but she was in distress. Let's just say she has it within her to fight some battles, thankfully. Mm-hmm. And I'm talking about Damsel, available on Netflix, starring Stranger Things, Millie Bobby Brown. We have talked about her before in our recap of Enola Holmes. If you guys have not listened to that, that's one of the olden day recaps that we did. But she is back and we are going to discuss this film. So a quick summary. A dutiful damsel agrees to marry a handsome prince only to find the royal family has recruited her as a sacrifice to repay an ancient debt. Our cast, as I already said, Millie Bobby Brown is Elodie. Nick Robinson, who I had just been asking about, is in this film as Prince Henry. Angela Bassett, the Angela Bassett, as Lady Bayford. Brooke Carter as Floria. Robin Wright as Queen Isabel. And Ray Winstone as Lord Bayford. Reviews. Rotten Tomatoes, 56% critic score. 64% audience score, and 70% of Google users gave this film a thumbs up. Delora, what is your grade for Damsel?
My grade for Damsel. Well, I enjoyed it. It was visually stunning. Millie Bobby Brown was a badass. She was kicking butt and taking names. I love the inclusion of Angela Bassett in this because I love seeing Black and brown people in fantasy because it's fucking fantasy. Why not?
Exactly. You know what I mean? We're everywhere.
We are everywhere, including outer space and your imagination from a time long, long ago. It was a fun ride. I give this movie a B.
Same page, same grade. I also gave this film a B. I actually watched this when I was out of town and really enjoyed it. We love a good fantasy series on here. You drop in a dragon and sold. I already knew a bit about what the premise and what we were getting ourselves into was. So I just kind of wanted to see how the story inevitably unfolded. And afterwards, I have to agree with what I saw a couple articles and Screen Rant say, which is I wish this had either been a 2-part film or a series, because I think that there was a rush that would have been able to help the story be better developed, for you to spend more time with the characters, for that arc to be more jarring for you if it had been much more laid out as far as time. If we start in the kingdom in the north, we get introduced, we hear about her life, her family, then we get the romanticized version, right? And then, big thing in the first film or first 5 episodes, bam, second half, we in it, you know? So that is my main critique of this, is I feel like if somebody wants to come back, bring this back, Netflix, bring it back, make it a whole series, it would be so good.
But I
So
think that's why I liked it though. It really did get to the point and it was over. It was like it was entertaining.
it was a little candy. It was a little candy for you.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah, no.
Like, oh, that was
I
entertaining.
wanted to live with it a little bit longer. I would have loved to live with it a little bit longer, but we got what we got, and that is what we were going to talk about today. So, spoiler alert, as we get into the good of Damsel, Delora, my first question is, did you go into this cold, or had you already seen like the trailer or previews and known kind of what this adventure was going to be?
So I knew I was going to watch it because I am a fan of Millie Bobby Brown. Shout out to Nola Holmes and Stranger Things. Two, I didn't get a chance to watch it when it first dropped, but some of my friends were like on social media and saying, oh, that was entertaining, or oh, that was fun. So I was like, oh, no spoilers, but they gave it the thumbs up that made me feel pretty confident in watching it. And yeah, I went ahead and just took the dive. How about you?
I did, like I said, go ahead and had seen the preview. So when we get into it, I'm like, okay, I see all this fluff and pomp and circumstance, but I know that there's something major coming. And that's probably to the detriment to my point of trailers these days, where they, to me, just give a little bit too much away. But it did not negate the excitement of really getting into the story, because again, fantasy. So it is, to me, a pretty straightforward fantasy tale. It's not as convoluted as some of the other fantasies that we've gotten into, where there's so much backstory, there's so much lore, there's multiple worlds. Yeah, this is pretty straightforward.
We actually, to our audience, we actually loathe fantasy sometimes when it comes to like recapping
them.
It's so much fantasy, and then like any comic, whatever, like like
yeah,
you got to talk about the land, you got to talk about the beasts, and then you got to talk about, like, it is so layered and it's intimidating. So that's why I appreciated this type of fantasy. You know what it is. Beautiful kingdom, something sinister underneath, you don't know what.
Yeah. And we only got so much time to talk to y'all. You know, it could be a whole series talking about a series, you know, in the fantasy genre. So we only got so much time. So as I mentioned, Elodie, our main character, is from the North. Sounds very familiar in the GOT world. And she agrees to marry a rich prince to provide for her people who are starving and freezing. We get this whole cute lead up with lush landscapes, wedding day, dress ceremony. But stepmommy, played by the Angela Bassett, has second thoughts pretty quickly after a chat with the queen. How did you feel about the royal family of Aurea and this arranged marriage?
So definitely loved their kingdom. Definitely thought everything was gorgeous. Definitely felt like something was fucked up underneath. Like, I really got that vibe immediately, especially when the queen was talking sideways to the Angela Bassett the way she did. I was like, oh, the disrespect, talking about remember your station, and
we don't need no more family.
We don't need no more family. I knew Prince Henry was off. Like, it was something about him. It was like a layer of sadness. Like he obviously is very handsome in real life, but he was not very pretty in this role, and it's just in the most subtle ways, like, you know what I mean. I actually don't know what it was. I don't know if he had like more of a hunch in his shoulders or something, that I'm like, I think that was intentional to his character, because he could have easily have been the shiny, what people in books like to call the golden retriever type of prince that went with that perfect world, you know what I mean? But I think his imperfections showed the weight of his shoulder, literally.
Yeah, he definitely appeared standoffish, if nothing else, because she even told him, she was like, you seem disinterested, if nothing else, which is your prerogative if you are, but again, it's a arranged marriage, right? So it almost felt like it was more so a marriage of not having any real interest in taking this step forward. But when we're watching it, it's like, well, this is an arranged marriage. Y'all are meeting for the first time. He probably isn't interested in you yet because he don't know you yet. That's how it could have come across. But I love Nick Robinson, especially from Everything. And so you see him in that level of like a romance. And so then to see him in this, or even Love Victor, a series, which he's still a part of because of his portrayal as what was his? Love, Simon. Yes. And so, you definitely know what he's capable of in like these romantic roles. So it was a bit of a departure to see him come across kind of cold for sure. But again, at the point of watching, I was just like, he ain't really, like probably a lot of people are when they're in an arranged marriage. This is what it is. I need a bride and your family needed money. So it is what it is. We ain't necessarily got to be cool, But in terms of the royal family in general, I thought the queen was something else. Like, I was like, especially when the daddy came stumbling out of the room after the conversation, I was like, oh, I would be concerned too, because what have you agreed to? What is this really going to be? It doesn't seem like you're happy or this is a good situation. And then to your point, when Angela had that conversation and she talked to her like that and she couldn't even remember Elodie's name. I think she called her Eloise or something.
Yes,
I said, oh no.
Yes.
You are not going to be appreciated here, sis. So maybe we should cut ties and run. But her sister, Floria, was so excited and so bewildered with the beauty of everything that, I was like, well, I guess we can wait and see. But the prince had spoken to her during their conversation of an ancient ceremony to honor their ancestors that they perform. So after the wedding, literally same day, took her to the mountain for one of these ceremonies. And it was explained that centuries ago, the king sacrificed his 3 daughters in a pact with a beast that was already living on the island, and that sacrifice had to be honored every generation. Seemed like she was going with the flow of the situation because, it's my new husband. He's going to protect me, going to take care of me. Threw her ass right into that cave as a sacrifice. When my mom watched this, she gasped. Did you gasp?
Girl, I was like, sorry, ain't even a big enough word for what you just did, sir. The betrayal. Yeah. He tossed her over that bridge into that pit of who knows what.
Yes. And this was the big moment that I said I feel like could have been built up to so well if that was like the end. Like the Avengers in the first Avengers movie, where where Thanos snaps his fingers and then we end and everybody in theaters like WTF. Right. This could have been that moment if this had been either a 2-part film or a series, because it was the luring in of like, I'm gonna carry you. Close your eyes. I got you. Just to throw her into a pit. It was almost like the scene in Get Out when he realizes, oh, she ain't for me. She reeled me in for this purpose of, whatever it is they about to do to me. Surprised that she even survived the fall. Who was more savage in this, Henry or the queen?
I think they're both in it. I think the queen, because this was her doing, her plan, her ancestry, right? But Henry, because he's like, well, if I do this, I can pick whichever wife I want after I do my duty. I think one could say Henry, though, because he's the one that actually had to build the facade of trust.
Yeah, or he's Allison Williams.
Some level of camaraderie for her to even trust to pick him up and hold his hand and do whatever. But it was, again, showing up, seeing a bunch of wealthy people in mass felt very sinister.
I would have ran because
like,
one too many things where that is some level of a cult or some level of something devious going on. But Henry separates his cereal on his milk was all I was thinking, because he was absolutely Allison Williams, Get Out. You know, like you are the meat that gets dangled in front of her face to reel her into a sense of safety, only to drop her into a cave. It was devastating. So again, I'm surprised she even survived the fall. And when she gets down into this cave, she realizes I am not the first one. She starts seeing things that do not belong to her. And she realizes, yo, I am the sacrifice. And that beast that was spoken of is a dragon that she is now being hunted by. The dragon apparently speaks English, right? Because the dragon ends up talking to her. Now, I want to talk about dragon lore a little bit and the things we've seen, because
Yes, I love dragon lore.
the first time I was watching it, I was like, dude, I ain't never seen no dragon like be playing this game. And like, you know, dragons, they kind of know they can kill you and they will take you out. You know what I'm saying? But she was like taunting her, talking to her, all these things. GOT, I feel like would never, but in Iron Flame and
Ironheart.
Is it Ironheart? Is
Yeah, I believe so.
I was talking about the
Sean
fourth
Connery.
wing. No,
Oh,
fourth wing and
I thought you
Iron
were.
Flame
I thought you were
books.
talking about the Sean Connery movie from back in the day with Matthew
No,
McConaughey.
no. In Fourth Wing and Iron Flame books, they did
Yes, the
communicate with
fourth
them
wing,
in
but it
their
was
head, and
yes,
there
yes, yes.
was a level of strategy to what the dragons were doing. So I was like, well, I guess there is some, it does fall in line a little bit with it. But what was your take on this particular dragon and kind of her taunting and antics towards Elodie as she's trying to survive?
Well, it made me think of, and I misquoted the actors in the movie and the movie. I was reminded of Dragon Heart from 1996, featuring Dennis Quaid and Sean Connery as Drago. And that was a talking dragon. And I think other people could talk to him too, not just the main character. I don't know. I liked it. I didn't mind. You know, it's fantasy. It's like, if this is what you serving me today, I'm just gonna take it, right? Shout out to the voice of the dragon. Her voice is just so like sensual, like she just has a gorgeous voice. Like it's like decadent.
Yeah.
Yes, yes, yes. And to your point, the fourth wing, I was so excited when I was like, oh my goodness, there's dragons. And then when you realize they could telepath to their riders, I lost my mind. And I love the characters of those dragons as well, because they're so different. So I appreciate this dragon having a personality, having purpose in what she was doing. You know what I mean?
She was a strategic dragon.
She was very justified in everything that she did. I will say what makes her different than some other dragons that I've seen in movies and books and things along those lines is I've never seen fire betrayed as lava, like thrown lava before. And I thought that was fascinating and an interesting take that I could appreciate.
Love it, love it. And this dragon ain't playing, you know, has killed many women for centuries before Elodie, including the young lady that she saw on the balcony the night before the wedding. That was very, very sad, right? Because it turns out Elodie's number 2 in this threesome of women that were going to be sacrificed to the dragon.
I also was thinking about my other favorite dragon movies, Argon, How to Train a Dragon, and Reign of Fire were also significant dragon movies, but I don't think they talked. That was the Matthew McConaughey movie, the Reign of Fire. So I got my dragon movies mixed up.
Gotcha. So the thing that I felt like was separating Elodie a little bit from the potential other women who are going to fall prey to this is thankfully she has some survival skills, right? Because she was brought up in a harsh environment. And so
because these are legit princesses that they are, you know, picking from these kingdoms.
Or if nothing else, probably just did not necessarily come up in the same rough and tumble environment, right? So,
Right.
when we saw her in the north, she was cutting wood and, you can tell she had to get her hands dirty to help her
Yeah.
family and the kingdom survive. And so she had to do that same thing being down there. A lot of people in that instance, you would at least taken a little bit of time to like think whether or not I even want to live or die. Like you get thrown into a hole by your husband you just married and you like hit your head and you have wounds and stuff. She didn't really she's like, I gotta move. Like, I gotta figure this out. Let's keep it going. So just that alone, I was like, her survival instincts are obviously great. And so because of that, she made use of her dress and her surroundings to do what she needed to do to kind of move through the cave. And big up to those healing glowworms. I don't know if those are supposed to be like leeches or what, but
Clutch. Exactly. I'm
MVPs.
always here for, you know, the magical ace card.
Yep. I said that's like old school medicinal things. They used to use leeches to try to cure people of different ailments.
Right.
And also her appreciation for nature, because she literally at first was picking them off like, ugh. And then when she realized what they did, she was like, I am very sorry for underestimating you. Right. Because, nature be helping us in a lot of ways that we don't really think about or realize sometimes till it's too late. So Elodie finds carvings from the other women who have been down in the cave, as well as a map that was drawn to kind of help guide her. This was a confusing point in the movie for me at first, because I was like, the same as her, like, did somebody survive at some point, that there would be a path for her to take that may lead her out of the cave? It took me like my 2 watches plus to kind of figure out what was going on with that. I don't know if anybody else had that moment. I was like, so did somebody make it out or no?
Right.
I was stuck on that for a few.
Well, shout out to the girls who was able to, figure it out to an extent, right?
Exactly.
And to bring it back to that wall where everyone was able to find a safe space, right?
Exactly. And there were so many names, right? When she started reading off the names, it was heartbreaking.
Yeah, very.
And then you would see the possible images of the young ladies who would have been down there and the struggles they would have had. Very sad. Elodie's father comes looking for her, having known that he'd sent her to her death, but obviously feeling guilty about it. And he is ultimately killed by the dragon. Did you have any forgiveness for him when you watched this?
That's a great question. I have to say, even though what he did was absolutely wrong, for whatever reason, I never viscerally hated him as much as I probably should have. I don't know why. Maybe to your point, we didn't have enough time to marinate the fact that he did have a conversation with the queen and he knew what was going down, and yet he still moved forward with it. He was willing to dispose of his own daughter for the sake of his kingdom.
Why do you think the queen told him the plans but romanticized it for Elodie until the very last second?
Girl, because I think she was talking to the king, monarch to monarch, and she was buttering up her pig for roasting. So, I mean,
I agree that I think there wasn't possibly enough time to hate him. Even when he was there dying, I was like, oh, dang, that's sad.
Yeah.
Not thinking about the fact that you brought this on yourself. And if anything, you kind of deserve to die because this is the position that you put your daughter in. So it's kind of like you traded your life for the position that you sold her off to. Yes, I understand there's complexity. She only married him in the first place to try to save the kingdom. So he, in his way, was doing the same. But I just don't know if there's anything worth doing something like this for, no matter what. But to his credit, at least he did try to come back. I don't think anybody else's daddy.
That's what I'm saying. Like, I do appreciate the fact that he was like, nah, let me go ahead and get baby girl. I think also the fact that she had been able to handle herself in such a way that I was like, maybe it would have been worse if she was struggling,
Yeah, more. Good point.
Yeah,
Shout out to that actor, by the way. He had the number one TV show and number one movie at Netflix at one point because he's also in The Gentleman. And I was like, sir, you out here, you doing your thing. Okay. So after this situation with Daddy, she uses the ropes that were left behind to make her way out. And as she's getting out, I definitely felt that sense of relief, like, oh God, thank you. It was like coming through the Hunger Games and we on the other side,
exactly.
only to discover that the queen has taken and sacrificed her younger sister Floria in her place.
In Bruno Mars' voice, this bitch.
That was perfection. That was perfection. And unlike her daddy, she ain't waste not a second, right? She runs off on horseback, jumps right back into that pit and does what she has to do. This time, obviously, much more self-assured. She knows the path. She knows what to do. She got to go rescue her sister and ultimately have a showdown with the dragon. Now, this is actually one of my favorite scenes, this back and forth between her and the dragon, where the dragon ultimately has to be convinced that what she has been told all these years is a lie, because the women, the princesses are lied to, right? They're told that the kingdom came after the beast in the first place because the beast attacked first. They came down to the beast lair completely unprovoked and killed the beast's 3 babies, 3 daughters. That is why 3 daughters have to be sacrificed every generation. This dragon was minding her business, and these are the last of her line.
Exactly.
But the dragon has been fooled because she realized that cut on the hand they get during the ceremony is what gives them the scent of royal blood that they have when they get tossed down there, that makes her kill these young ladies generation after generation. So as Elodie tells her, you've been killing innocent women, innocent children, just like they did. And so, yes, they had to fight. There had to be a struggle. And a part of that struggle, though, I was like, has there ever been another dragon film where a dragon can be hurt by its own fire?
I've never seen it, but I've never seen lava fire either. So maybe something is different.
Yeah, because I was like, I could have sworn they'd be fireproof. But regardless, it is what it is. And they decide to join forces. When Elodie comes up out of there with her fashion dress looking like a whole fashion statement with the bob, I was like, okay, movie magic, because you look fabulous.
Exactly.
Rising from the ashes, right?
Exactly.
And basically, we're going to take out this royal family and anyone willing to stand with them. Now, there was such a big distinction, again, going back to Henry versus the queen. When the dragon breathes fire, you see Henry accept his fate without complaint.
I thought it was interesting to see how everyone
reacted.
Yeah. With him, he knew what it was.
The queen yelled as she burned.
Wasn't that giving Charlize Theron in the
Snow White series?
Yeah.
That's a very good callback. One could say, especially because, I don't know, Robin Wright Penn was, or I don't mean to call her Robin Wright Penn. She has not gone by that in a long time. Robin Wright.
Long time. Mm-hmm.
Robin Wright was such a great villain. Now, one could say she was a bit villainous in House of Cards, but
she was political.
There's villainy in politics. She wasn't frank, but there's some level of villainy.
But she did what she had to do. Okay. So, yeah.
But this was true, like, villain. And I thought she played this character really, really well. And it was.
I agree.
So, again, such a stark distinction between them where he's like, I know what I did was wrong. It's time to go. And she fought to the end, even as she's burning.
Yep. That crown that she coveted so much melting on her head.
Did you think it was messed up of the folks who lived in that kingdom to have known what was going on all that time and never standing up against it? Or do you think it's symptomatic of what a lot of folks do?
I think it's definitely sheep mentality. Like, they were comfortable. These were their leaders. This is what their leaders said that they needed to do. No one objected. So
no
things
one
kept going.
No one. I think in this case, you can look at them as sinister with it because it's so close. Like it's so close to you where you see the young lady, you see the ceremony, you see the three, because they were in the midst of the third one. Y'all
Yep.
just saw Elodie yesterday and the other young lady the day before. And yet there's nothing you're doing. It's like you see these human beings, but at the same time, one could say we see a lot of things that happen governmentally, nationally, all sorts of things that we sit back and stand by the side of whatever too, which was my thought when I watched this. I was like, one could say it's crazy, and it is crazy that they would let this keep going, but there's to me, it was definitely symptomatic of things that people would allow. What's the saying? The only thing that evil needs to prevail is good people to do nothing.
Mm.
And I feel like that is exactly what happened in this scenario. No one's going to stand up for these young ladies, then the evil will keep eviling.
That's real.
To wrap the movie, we see Elodie reunite with her stepmom, with Floria, and they now obviously have the things they need to take back to the north to be able to make it through this winter and the next winter and all these things. And guess who's also in tow? That damn dragon. I said, call her Daenerys. Okay?
Crossing that sea over to King's Landing.
Call her freaking Daenerys, mother of dragons. Give me your final thoughts. There was some criticism, by the way, of this film about, I know you said it was visually stunning about the CGI. So was it at all an issue to you? And did you have any standout scenes or performances you wanted to mention?
What I said was beautiful was like the gardens and the castle and things like that. Not so much all the dragons and the lava. I wasn't thinking that hard. Honestly, again, are we talking like, is this creme brulee or is this a popsicle? Both are desserts. This was cool and refreshing for me. Okay. It was to the point. It did what it needed to do. Standout performances. Again, Millie Bobby Brown is a star.
Yes.
She did that, just like her mama. So Angela Bassett, who did the thing for those who are confused. She's a rock star. And the fact that she could hold her own in this movie, being the main star, and I was thoroughly entertained. Kudos to her. And I thought it was it was a good cast for what it was. You know what I mean? I had fun.
It was a very good cast. It's actually stacked when you think about it.
Truly,
you know what I'm saying?
Truly, yeah.
Pretty stacked. So yeah, I think all the performances really good. As I said, one of my favorite scenes was the ultimate showdown with the dragon. We have to come to a truce and an understanding. And, we are not their daughters and you've been lied to. I just, that come to Jesus really satisfied me. I'm glad that Millie Bobby Brown continues to do her thing because she was a child star. So I didn't know where we were going to go with that after Stranger Things wrap, but I think she's shown that she can carry a movie and she can hold her own against, heavyweights like Angela Bassett and freaking Robin Wright, who've been doing this ish for a long, long time. Yep. Angela Bassett, I loved because Angela Bassett has such a subtle power with this, especially to flip kind of the stepmom thing on his head with fantasy. A lot of times stepmoms are antagonistic. And in this, she was overprotective, even more than her own daddy. And so, she always has a quiet, regal authority to her. And I'm just glad that, she carries that with her into this role as well. And yeah,
I mean, she's the queen of Wakanda.
Exactly.
So do we expect anything less?
I also love the relationship she had with her sister. I thought that was really, really cute. And so if we do another film, maybe it's the sister's turn to have some level of an adventure. So I was down for it. I really enjoyed it. CGI was not an issue for me. If anything, it was really dark for a long time as I was watching it.
In the caves.
Yeah. And so I felt like, it lightened up as it became more and more urgent that, hey, how are we going to survive? How are we going to survive? So I noted that more than anything. So to me, enjoyable film. Fairly quick watch, fairly quick binge on Netflix. And if you enjoy fantasy, if you enjoy a good series, if you enjoy kind of seeing that damsel in distress trope flipped on its head, this is a good one to check out. So thank you guys for joining us for this recap. And Delora, if there is nothing else for Damsel, what you got for Hidden Gems this week?
Yes, Ashley. I have 3 hidden gems this week. The first, Shogun, available on Netflix. I'm still making my way through the series, but it's pretty epic.
I've been hearing great things about it.
Great things. It is full of subtitles, so it does require full attention. That's part of the reason why I hadn't finished it, because it's like you can't consume it very quickly. You know what I mean? You have to pay attention, and each episode is so epic. I watch it on Hulu, but it is an FX series. Here's a quick summary for those who may not know. Set in Japan in the year 1600, Lord Yoshi Taranaka is fighting for his life as his enemies on the Council of Regents unite against him when a mysterious European ship is found marooned in a nearby fishing village. So just pretty epic fighting, badass drama. I'm here for all the dramatics. My second hidden gem is Ashley talked about this last week, The Gentleman. My boo, Theo James. I had to see what was up. And I haven't finished the series yet either, but it is so freaking entertaining. And I fucking hate Freddie with all my being.
Yeah, but what would the show be without Freddie? He is a mess. But
I feel my blood pressure rising whenever he says or do anything. And
such a good show. I watched it like 10 times.
He's a good brother. That's all I gotta say.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
After a while, it's called personal responsibility for me. You know what I mean?
Well, it's also he's the oldest, right? So to be the oldest and to be that personality type is even more frustrating sometimes.
Because your little brother's cleaning up all your mess.
Yes.
It makes sense on why the father didn't do what everyone thought he was supposed to do.
Exactly.
Daddy wasn't stupid.
Love it.
And then my third hidden gem, Irish Wish.
Oh, wow.
Lilo is back. Lindsay Lohan. I actually enjoyed this one more than the Christmas movie that she did. Lindsay Lohan stars in this. I watched this literally on St. Patrick's Day. This is literally an advertisement to just take your behind to Ireland because it's gorgeous. Like that's what this show mainly does. And then there's a lot of cheesy stuff in between. But shout out to Lindsay Lohan's hair and costume, because her hair was glorious. It's back to red, which we love redheads here on the podcast. But the color she wore complemented her complexion and hair so well. It was just, she looked phenomenal and it was super cute. And it's giving Freaky Friday vibes, where she makes a wish and she lives through her wish, and it's like, be careful what you wish for type of movies. So
yeah, I love Lindsay, but I have not ever made it through the Christmas movie. I always fall asleep.
You don't need to.
Irish Wish, turned it on to go to sleep as well. So I got like
the last
that 5 minutes.
The Christmas one was a no for me though.
But shout out to her brother, because I know her brother is in it. Shout out to Aisha Curry, because I know Aisha is in it. So
you know why I think the reason why I like this one more than the Christmas one is because I want to go to Ireland. So like all the spots they went to, I'm like, oh, okay. Need to put that on my list. Like location.
I mean, it's true. I even said that's what I loved about the show Resident Alien I was like, oh, Colorado is gorgeous, so the backdrop and the landscapes make a huge difference in the experience of projects, for sure.
One of my favorite jokes, it was from a Mindy Kaling project, where somebody was like, oh yeah, I watch Outlander for the landscapes. And so that has always been a running joke between me and David, because I genuinely would love to go to I would genuinely love to go to Scotland, but Outlander was insane with the sex
Yeah.
in that first season.
If it wasn't consensual, it was rape. Thought to be rape.
Girl,
That's why I had to give it up. I was like, this is brutal.
I had to give it up. I gave it up. I stuck with it longer.
Oh yeah.
But the fact that Jamie kept putting himself in bodily harm to save Claire time and time and time again, it got exhausting, even when they changed countries. And to your point, the threat of violence was just lurking always. And it was stressful. And I think it was during like election years too. And I'm like,
and I think I started it during the pandemic, and I was like, this is not for me right now. So maybe someday. My one hidden gem this week is Girls 5 Ever
you
on
watched
Netflix.
it.
I started it. I'm in season 2 right now, and it is so quirky. I saw a review that said, because it's Tina Fey produced, I saw a review that said, it gives you like vibes of the one Kimmy Schmidt and some of those like with the pacing and 30 Rock. Like it's kind of boom, 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 boom with the humor a little bit. But I love the premise, which is, guys, if you're not familiar, it's this one hit wonder girl group from the 90s who reunites in their 40s. And it stars Sarah Bareilles, Renee Elise Goldsberry, Busy Phillips, and Paula Pale. Shout out to Ashley Park as well. It was 3 seasons that originally aired on Peacock, but Peacock canceled it, right? So it's one of those where Netflix is picking it up. If it does well, I'm sure they'll probably do another season and revive it. But it's just, very funny with some good music sprinkled in. Because, you got freaking Eliza from Hamilton, and you got Sarah Bareilles. And Ashley Park has her moments as well.
Exactly. So Ashley can sing. I love
Ashley
her song.
sing. Yes.
Her song Emily in Paris. So yeah.
Yeah. So it's an enjoyable ride. It's again, if you get into like Tina Fey's sense of humor and the way that those shows move and are paced, you'll lap this show up. So that is Girls 5 Ever, to wrap up our Women's History Month recap, hidden gems, all the things. We will be back as always. Thank you guys for sticking with us. We appreciate you. Share this episode with your friends, family, loved ones, everyone. Until next time, as always, be blessed.
Bye.